Welcome back to another We Ourselves video, and today I want to begin a new series of videos on the Harry Potter movie series. I read the books as an adult, not a kid. I did not grow up with the movies, and I did not grow up with the books. But like so many in my community who came to the property later, we had some trepidation because of our religious upbringing, and so I thought that coming from that aspect and seeing a lot of the first-time reviewers who also come from my community and had similar hesitations in watching the movies and reading the books, I just thought it'd be really interesting to do these videos to kind of explain some of the concepts that people had questions about when just watching the movies, not reading the books. And so this is my journey into the Harry Potter universe. My introduction to Harry Potter series, believe it or not, was in the July 2000 Newsweek magazine. Of course, I had heard about Harry Potter. It had become very popular in the US after Scholastic got the American distribution rights, and so that put it into that coveted K-12 school environment that so many YA authors want to be in. And so there was a lot of uproar because of Harry Potter and the magic and the witches and wizards and rituals and potions and spells. I'd heard all the usual complaints that always come up about these types of sci-fi and fantasy properties. They had just announced that they were going to do the first Harry Potter movie, and it did come out a year and some months later, and they were talking about the imminent release of the fourth novel. So all of this was going around at the same time. And when I got my issue of that Newsweek, they had Harry Potter on the cover. They had the entire first chapter of book 4 in that issue of Newsweek magazine. I read it. I was immediately intrigued. And so I wanted to read more, but I didn't have to go to the bookstore. I happened to go into my local 7-Eleven, and there's a display with the first 3 Harry Potter novels there. Now, these were the paperback versions, but they were sitting there on a store display. So I grabbed the first book, The Sorcerer's Stone, and I went home and I read it. And I immediately fell in love with the mystery, the explanation that it was giving me. And I immediately went back and bought the other 2 books before I finished the first one. And I recall when the movie was getting closer to being released, they started doing commercials which showed Hedwig, that snowy owl, and they were giving you a feel for the tone and the magical environment. And of course, they had the iconic John Williams music. Now, I've always been a fan of movie music, and so I was really hyped for the first movie to come out. And by then, I was caught up. So I was into the Harry Potter universe. And so, as an adult fan of the Harry Potter book series and the movie series, and watching other people come to Harry Potter as adult, particularly from my community, and watching their reactions and some of the questions that they had, I think it will be interesting from my point of view to do these videos. And I'm going to talk about things like Harry Potter's relationship with Snape. I want to talk about the nature of magic in the Harry Potter universe to understand that, because I think that's missing in a lot of the explanations that people try to give to first-time viewers of Harry Potter. And most importantly, I want to talk about the representation inside of Harry Potter, because a lot of people are missing that. When it first came out, those first books came out in the late 1990s, and it was god-awful for YA literature to have Black characters. Maybe one secondary in the back character. And I'm not saying that she put the Black characters up front, but she had far more Black, clearly identified Black characters in her books from the start than was common in American YA literature. When I get to that video, I'm going to talk about all of those things, because I've seen an attack on J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books. You can have difference with what she says in her real life, but when it came to the book, I found it odd, particularly Caucasian men were choosing to talk about this subject to largely white audiences, and they're just flat out lying on the book series. And so that's going to be a really interesting video to do, because I think that's an important aspect that needs to be talked about by a Black person who's also a fan of the books, but who's also a YA writer. And we know what this American YA landscape in terms of books has looked like, and the lack of representation. The publishing world, they're afraid of what Native Black Americans are going to say in their stories, particularly about America, American history, racism, and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of things that need to be said, and sometimes I think younger Black American fans of the Harry Potter books and stuff, they don't realize the significance of what it was like when that book first came out and what it means for people who now, like me, who are writing YA literature precisely because there's no representation. And most of us have to go independent even now because mainstream publishing industry is very selective and scared of what we have to say. So anyway, that's why I'm doing these videos. I hope you enjoy them. I hope you get something out of them, and, look forward to sharing them with you. And so as always, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the rest of the videos in this series.